Myself and John put together a bottom five teams in free agency week one, and here's why we picked those teams. All right, John. So we are going to talk about our lists in free agency, starting off with our bottom list. John, you picked the Philadelphia Eagles as your number 5 team on the bottom. Why is it that you picked the Philadelphia Eagles as your number 5 team?
Like I said, this came down between two teams. Kind of like a 5A, 5B. 5B was the Seattle Seahawks, but I went with 5A, the Eagles, because I feel like they lost a lot more than they added. They were 22nd in run defense. They lost Jalen Phillips. They lost N'Kobe Dean. And then in the secondary, they lost Reed Blankenship. I just felt, like I said, that they just lost more than they added, especially on that defensive side.
All right. I took the Seahawks as my number 5 team because I see them letting go of some of the core players like a Kenneth Walker, like a Reek Wallen. There's a lot of guys that were there that made an impact for the Seattle Seahawks Super Bowl 60 teams that just left in free agency. This is why I sit here and say right now, I do not feel like the Seahawks are going to be a team that repeats. Do I see them going into the playoffs? Yeah, I see the Seahawks being a playoff team. Do I see them winning a division right now? No. Do I see them repeating and making the Super Bowl again? No. And do I see them raising the Lombardi Trophy again? No. I see them letting go a lot of those core players that helped them get to where they got to in 2025, and I don't see Seattle doing the same thing they did in 2024. John, you picked the Falcons as your number 4 team. Why so?
Just like the Eagles, I feel like the Falcons lost way more than they added. I mean, just in defense alone last year, they were 24th in the run defense. They lost David Onyemata. They also lost their backup running back, Tyler Algier. I think that's going to hurt them because of that 1-2 punch. And like I said, I just feel like they lost more than they added. They added Tua, but I mean, let's be honest, it's Tua Tagovailoa. I know I butchered up that last name, but yeah, I think right now the Falcons are not in a good place.
I took the Jets at number 4. Now, when you look at the Jets in free agency, they are building up their defense. They are doing a pretty good job at doing so. They aren't focusing so much on their offensive side of the ball, which I think needed to be a big focus for the New York Jets this offseason. We've seen the Jets build a really good defense before and have had a really bad season with that good defense. 2025, not one interception made by any of the defensive backs, linebackers, anybody. They had 0 interceptions this season. In 2024, had arguably one of the best defensive lineups and still did not do anything as a team. We've seen the Jets do this before, build a defense, but did not focus on that offense, and that is why the Jets are on a bottom list instead of a top list for me. John, you took the Browns at number 3. Why'd you take the Browns?
I mean, last year they were 30th in offense, and they basically lost their entire offensive line except Elgin Jenkins, who they re-signed. They did trade for Titus Howard, but they still have to rebuild that O-line. And they lost David Njoku, who still hasn't found a home yet, as we said earlier, and they still haven't replaced linebacker Devin Bush. So again, this is just a case of they lost a lot more than they gained. Plus, I think having to rebuild that O-line is really going to hurt them.
I took the Lions at number 3 for one big reason, and that is David Montgomery. Okay, so they brought in Isaiah Pacheco to replace David Montgomery, but I don't think you can replace a David Montgomery even with an Isaiah Pacheco. Pacheco's coming off a year of an injury. David Montgomery going away and taking away that 1-2 punch of him and Jahmyr Gibbs, I think is going to hurt that Detroit offense tremendously. I know they see something in Isaiah Pacheco, but I'll say this. Yeah, he had the number 1 spot in Kansas City, but he is not going to produce in Detroit like he did in Kansas City, especially with the Jahmyr Gibbs being there. I still think the workload is going to be put on Jahmyr Gibbs, and Isaiah Pacheco is going to be that, third down guy, and he's not going to do half of what David Montgomery was able to do for that offense. So John, you took Tampa Bay at number 2. Why Tampa at number 2?
Well, I didn't really see them filling any of their needs. Like, they were 27th in pass defense. I didn't really see them do anything that great to help there. They were 20th in pass offense. Granted, some of that was due to injuries because their top 3 receivers were hurt at the same time. But guess what? You just lost Mike Evans, Mr. Buccaneer, to the 49ers. You lose Jamel Dean, again, 27th in pass defense. I feel like there's a lot of question marks going into this team, going into this season, I mean. And their young receivers, Emeka Abuke and Jalen McMillan, they're really going to have to step up and not get hurt. So we're going to see just how much they're gonna miss Mike Evans, especially with Chris Goodwin. He's been getting hurt too the last couple of years. So I feel like losing Evans is a big, big loss for them.
I put the Packers at number 2 for pretty much the same reason I put Seattle on this list, and that was letting core guys go. Last year, midseason, you traded away Kenny Clark. Yes, you brought in Micah Parsons. Parsons goes down with an injury. You got to rely on your defense to be carried by Rashawn Gary. Now you traded away Rashawn Gary. We didn't get to see a full season of a Micah Parsons, Rashawn Gary running that Packer defense together. On top of that, you're letting some of your offensive players go. I believe they let go of like 2 key receivers that they didn't bring back. I feel like the Packers should have been trying to make a step forward. Instead, they're making a step back. 3 seasons in a row, they become the 7th seed in the playoffs. They get eliminated in the first round the last 2 years. In year 1, they beat the Cowboys in the wild card round and got past and got to the divisional round. But the last 2 years, eliminated in the wild card round at the 7th seed. The Packers, I believe, took a tremendous step back with the moves they made in the past 8 months. And I don't see the Packers doing any better this season if they don't start making moves that they should be making to build this team back up to where it should be. Because Kenny Clark being gone, Rashawn Gary being gone, Micah Parsons coming off the injury, this Packer defense is going to be very questionable after starting off the 2025 season as one of the best defenses and now taking this step back and letting these guys go. The Packers are hurting right now, I think, and not in the position they need to be in. So, John, you took the Jaguars as number 1 on your bottom list. Why?
That's because they did not fill any needs. They have had a terrible free agency. I'm going to start it out like this. Last year, they were 21st in pass defense. Okay. How do we start free agency? You lose linebacker Devin Lloyd, cornerback Greg Newsome, and safety Andrew Wingard. Okay, how's that going to help that 21st pass defense? On top of that, you lose your star running back, Travis Etienne, and sign Chris Rodriguez Jr. from the Commanders. Now, nothing against Chris Rodriguez. He had a career year last year for them, the best year of his career, and someone was going to sign him. So, but let's be honest, he's not going to be able to fill the role Travis Etienne did. That's going to hurt their running game. They don't have Tank Bigsby anymore. And like I said, they did nothing to improve their weakest area, their pass defense. I don't see Jacksonville. They didn't do anything in free agency. So to me, I don't think they're going to win their division again. It's going to be a struggle for them this year. And I think Trevor Lawrence is going to really have to show up for that team on offense and really lead that team if they're going to have success. But I picked the Jaguars because, like I said, they really didn't fill any of their holes.
I picked the Dolphins as my number 1 on this list, and I think that's pretty obvious. You look at the direction the Dolphins are going in. They just traded away Jalen Waddle. Tua Tagovailoa is gone, and Malik Willis is the guy now. They're going to rely on Devon Achane as their running back, obviously, but he's going to be their carrier. I don't know. I mean, the Dolphins' offensive line has been sketchy since last year. The receiving core is just not looking like it's in a good place. This is not a good start to a rebuild. Let's just say that. They have taken more steps back than they needed to forward, and they are right now looking over the edge of a mountain ready to fall off because they are not climbing from the top, from the bottom of that mountain to the top from rebuilding. They just keep digging a hole deeper down, and that is why the Dolphins are number one on my list. They are not off to a great start in this rebuild.
I want to piggyback off of that for a second. The reason the Dolphins aren't on my list is because I gave them a pass because it's well known that they're rebuilding. So I gave them a pass for being on my least improved. Otherwise, they probably would have been my number one, but because of the fact that they've made it known that they're rebuilding, I gave them a pass this year.
Well, I was going to ask you before we get into the top list, if you had to challenge one of the teams on my list, what team would it be? Would it be the Dolphins, Packers, Lions, Jets, or Seahawks?
I'm going to go with the... You know what? I think I'm going to go with the Packers because I think they're going to be just fine this year. I think they're going to be still contending for the North. They still have Jordan Love. They still have Josh Jacobs. They still have Jaden Reed and Matthew Golden at wide receiver. Yeah, they lost Romeo Dobbs and they lost somebody else, but they still have their core receivers. They still have Tucker Kraft, provided he doesn't get hurt again. I think the Packers will be just fine. I'm not going to say they're going to win their division because they still have the Bears to contend with. And we don't know what the Lions are going to be like this year without David Montgomery. But I think they're still going to be a playoff contender.
The team I'm challenging on your list is the Browns. I'm challenging the Browns. Because number one, we already know what position this Browns offense is in. Yes, the whole offensive line became free agents. They re-signed one of the five guys. But then you look at the production of the other positions like quarterback, wide receiver, running back, tight end, and we know that they need to build on that. So I feel like the Browns offense has already been torn down, and they really haven't made any steps forward in free agency, or haven't even really made any attempts to take steps in free agency moving forward with their offense. Their defense is built. As I say, that defense is ready to go. It's just all about the offense going. But this Browns offense has been like this since the beginning of the 2025 season. I think the Browns are taking the formula of teams like the Bears, stripping down their offensive line and rebuilding the same way that the Bears did. But the thing is now they got to go out and find that quarterback. Is Shedeur Sanders the starting quarterback in Cleveland? Most likely. Most likely Shedeur Sanders is the starter. He has showed some real promise the back end of 2025. But now it's about who's going to come in and be your receiving core. Who's going to be your guys? Who's going to be your tight end now that David Njoku's out? Who's going to be your running back now that you don't have, Jerome Ford? And there's a lot of questions on that Browns offense.
Well, that's going to be Quinn. That's going to be Quinshon Judkins.
Yeah, well, Quinshon Judkins is the guy. Yeah,
he's solidified at that.
But I think the Browns were already at the point where they aren't taking any steps back, but not taking any steps forward. I think they're stagnant, and that's why I challenged that list, because of the fact that I think they're ready to make the steps that like the Bears did with their offensive line. That's what I mean. I know I have the Dolphins on my list. I think the Dolphins were more noticeable because of the fact we knew the Dolphins were going to rebuild. But it's like now you traded away your core receiver who was left on your roster. We knew you were releasing Tua, but you brought in an unproven quarterback and gave him a big contract, three years, $24.75 million. You paid him. He's your guy, and he's unproven. I think the Dolphins took more steps back in this rebuild than they did try and even make forward.
Well, somebody's got to compete with the Jets for the worst team in the division.
We
got two teams competing for the best. We might as well have two teams competing for the worst.
Yeah.